Great. Well, we've heard from the government. I want to get the opposition reaction. Some of them are very critical of this government loan program, including the NDP Leader Jagmeet Singh, who joins us for more. Mr. Singh, good to have you on the program. You came out strongly against this support program I was just talking about, particularly about the stipulations on companies that have been just what Mr. Fraser talked about, convicted of tax evasion. What's your basic criticism here?
Well, we've got an opportunity now to ensure that something that we know is wrong. In fact, the government, the CRA, went after a company because they put $360 million in a bank in the Caribbean. This is recent news. The Loblaws was the company. CRA went after them saying, you owe us $360 million in taxes. But then it was found to be completely legal, though the judge accepted that the entire money that was in that bank was flowed from Canada to that bank. And ostensibly, CRA made the argument to avoid paying taxes. So we've got a chance now to say, well, if you're going to avoid paying taxes, if you're wealthy enough or successful enough that you're trying to hide the amount of money that you have and you're not contributing it back to the public, then no, you don't get help from the public. And if you're willing to take your money out of those tax havens, then absolutely you can get help from the public. A very simple way to ensure during this crisis, we don't have companies that are cheating the system. Yes.
I appreciate that, and I just asked Mr. Fraser that because they're certainly putting strings attached on climate, but not strings on tax havens. But this is different than an aid package. This is a loan. This is for big companies that can't use the capital markets for other things. They got to pay this back. It's an interest-bearing loan. Should that rigid stipulation be put on a loan? This is not a grant again. This is not a bailout. This is a loan because these are companies that may employ hundreds of thousands of Canadians. Would your stipulation jeopardize support that workers need?
Well, the thing is, if the government's priority is getting help to workers, then I'm sure with the powers of government, the Prime Minister and the Liberal government can figure out a way to get help to workers without enriching companies that are trying to hide their money offshore. And for evidence, we've got France, we've got Denmark, we've got Poland, we've got Italy. All these countries have committed to exactly what we're saying that Canada should do. Don't give money to a company that is hiding its wealth, that's hiding its profits in another bank just to avoid paying taxes. Money should go to companies that are actually putting that back into people, that are hiring people here, that are investing in Canadian jobs. There has to be a strings attached. What is the point of giving a loan to a company if it's not tied directly to jobs in Canada and it's not tied directly to a company that's actually going to invest in Canada by keeping their money here in Canada? This is an opportunity to actually incentivize good behavior and to discourage bad behavior. Let's use it.
You criticize the Liberals for bending backwards to help rich CEOs, but the fact is in the large employer loan program, one of the criteria, they're limiting pay of executives. Does that contradict your argument?
Well, they said limiting pay and they're limiting bonuses, which is to suggest that there is some amount of public money that could go to a bonus. Well, the way they've worded it is they're going to limit excessive CEO bonuses and salary. They don't say that they're going to stop it like Germany has done. Germany has said if you're going to apply for public money, then you have to commit that your executive suite has to reduce its pay. There's other countries doing this, and it shows very clearly whose side the Liberal government's on. If they're really interested in ensuring money goes to workers, if they're really interested in ensuring that there's a good economy where jobs are in Canada, we have other best practices to follow. If Germany can figure this out, if France can figure this out, if Italy can figure this out, I don't accept that Canada can't figure it out. And the only reason Canada is not doing it, the only reason why the Liberal government or the Prime Minister is not doing it, because he's not committed to making sure help gets to workers. And that, to me, is a problem.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there may be limits on this stuff that aren't good enough for you. I mean, they have put out $200 billion, but you're right. Many other countries have done this to avoid what they say. Private corporations often privatize their profits, they keep it themselves, and socialize their losses. And that's what, as you say, that's been a big issue. Now, on another issue, you're calling the government to bring in 2 weeks of paid sick leave for all Canadians. The government, though, as you know, the federal government, doesn't have control over anything but federally regulated workplaces. Shouldn't you be taking your request to the provinces? Isn't this sort of out of their jurisdiction?
Well, Premier Horgan is one of the loud proponents of this, saying that at this time we do need a federal program and we should use employment insurance and the CERB programs that are already working now and use them and modify them such that all Canadians have access to paid sick leave. This is one of the vital things. As provinces are opening up, as people are going back to work, no Canadian should make that impossible choice between going to work, risking infecting their colleagues, or staying at home and not getting paid because they don't have paid benefits, paid sick leave, and risking not being able to make ends meet. That should not be a choice Canadians have to make.
Right. Do you think the House of Commons has one meeting in person, reduced meeting, and two two virtual meetings? Do you think Parliament should meet physically more often, as the Conservatives are saying?
Well, I'm not stuck on the exact formula. I think what UK has done has been very effective in having less people physically present, but then having virtual presence of some MPs so that they could come from further away and they can have their presence and make sure their constituents are heard. I just want to make sure that we've got increased transparency and the ability to watch where the money is going and ensure that money is going to a company that's directly investing in Canada with Canadian jobs. So I want to see more transparency, but I'm flexible with how we do that.
You're flexible. Okay, last question. I've got this mask here. This is the great mask debate. They're now recommended. They're not mandatory. Do you think if these things really do reduce the spread of COVID-19, they may help us get back to some kind of normal when people have to get to work and it's difficult to socially distance? Do you think wearing a mask should be mandatory or just recommended?
Well, I think it's important to follow the expert advice. And now that recommendation has been made, I'm going to do my best to follow that. I think it's important that we follow the advice as it comes out. And if there's a good evidentiary basis for it, which is what we've heard now and what Dr. Tam has said, I think we should follow it.
So you're wearing a mask, I guess, at some times now?
Well, I had been occasionally, but it wasn't something I made a regular practice. Now with the announcement today, I'm going to make it a regular practice.
All right. Mr. Singh, I appreciate you joining us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.